logrando perfección en la industria de la piratería. Producciones Shark. En MP3.
Si no le contesto se desespera. Piensa que con otro estoy haciéndolo.
En MP3. En MP3.
Hey, you thought we forget? No. Today we're gonna talk about the US rap history from 1983 to all the way to 2000s. So, please enjoy the video, Professor.
I can't believe I'm walking the same halls many great composers walk once. Because I'm not. Those are probably in Europe. I'm in Querétaro. Also, they weren't even schools. Those were fancy words they use only to make themselves look much interesting. And we're not here to talk about those old white men with white hair. No, we're not here to talk about them. No, we're here to talk about the poems of the streets, rap music. It features rhyming lyrics with rhythmically and overcomplicated sometimes beats. So this is basically a very complicated mumbling and very fancy one. But what are the lyrics really talking about? And why do we even care? Storytelling was always an important topic, but let's say social commentary is also very important, and it focuses one of the main topics rap music talks about. There are two things I cannot tolerate: lactose and racism. I don't know how rappers dealt with the first one, but I'm surely sure they had to deal with the second one. As many artists were black, they had to deal with a lot of obstacles just by the color of their skin. A way they have of dealing with this was, of course, through rap music, and eventually hip-hop music, and many other styles. As my companions will tell you, we will see the musical and historical evolution of this subject. We will just see how our classmates take this, because this is serious. This is a serious topic.
The golden age of hip-hop started from mid-1980s till mid-1990s, when the genre reached its peak of creativity and popularity. Characterized by the innovative production for the social conscious lyrics and the rise of iconic musicians. During the same time period, many cities of America were struggling with social issues, with economic difficulties, and the urban decline. Hip-hop musicians gave a voice to the minorities and helped to solve the problems through their music. In the late 1980s, there was experienced a significant increase in technology, in which one of the developments were the sampling in the producing of the music. Hip-hop producers were able to experiment with new sounds thanks to the technological revolution, which was a characteristic of the hip-hop golden age of the innovative diversity. Other social issue was American racial conflicts. With its origins in the African American and Latino community, the hip-hop evolved to be a way which the musicians could address the social injustice, police brutality, and other social injustice. Additionally, gang violence consuming the urban areas every single day. And with this, rappers explaining through the lyrics of the songs the difficulties of growing up in unsafe places and communities where the gang life is real. The social impact that hip-hop had was that the significance of the storytelling that gave to the listeners the sense of a community and empowerment, all while challenging the established norm and promoting the personality. Hip-hop would have now revolutionized the music, giving a voice to the voiceless through the cultural effect and the conscious lyrics. For instance, other disciplines grew up to be associated with the hip hop lifestyle, such as the breakdancing, which was the kids of the Bronx showing their skills at the acrobatics of the breaks. Other discipline is the graffiti, which was the movement visual art. In this one, we can see the self expression and the ability to express in the environment where you belong. Also, human beatboxing was created, in which was the human voice recreating the sounds of some drums and scratching. No. Street fashion evolved to the sneakers, baggy jeans, oversized clothes, colorful patterns, and design brands. Now let's talk about some musicians that had an impact in the hip hop in the golden age. And the first artist that we're gonna talk is Rakim. He had significant contributions because of the art of rhyming, making him an influence in the peak of the hip hop age. Also known for his duo with Eric B and Rakim, other musicians to mention is NWA. This group having well-known artists such as Dr. Dre, Ice-T, and Eazy-E. And the third artist that we're gonna mention is LL Cool J. Him having contributions in the genre and also making himself an essential figure of the golden age of the hip hop.
Well, and now we're going to look about one of the most iconic and debated rap history rivalities, the East versus the West Coast. By the end of the 80s and the start of the 90s, hip hop entered a new school era, and the names that headed the movement were more recognizable to a contemporary audience. This was made by bringing hip hop and rap to a larger audience, mainly by performances on the MTV, could be, or by the radio station. As the internet developed, the possibilities seemed endless. As we know, they start experimenting with different things like digital samples. They also start pushing rap into different directions. As we know, rap is a cultural movement that used to reflect the themes of poverty, violence, guns, and drugs. But they started making a whole way of other themes, such as romantic ones, for example. The East Coast getting his own rappers like Nas, or maybe something about Biggie, and the West Coast getting more something about Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. But it wasn't only a musical competition, as it started to get more rooted into the American culture, if we could say so. And the fans wasn't just liking the music, they were also taking sides into the West Coast or the East Coast. There started to be riots and fights between them. It was starting to get a little bit rough. The social media also started to fuel in the flames by creating tension and an atmosphere of rivalry. But the rivalry wasn't just confined to the music, it was also spilled to the streets, and it ended up with the unsolved murder of Tupac and Notorious Big, two of the biggest artists. And these losses made us realize and raise questions about the safety and well-being, also the impact of the West Coast versus the East Coast rivalry. In conclusion, the East Coast versus the West Coast was a pivotal movement for the hip hop industry. But well, I think that it actually showcased the ability of music to actually shape and form the society to better or to worse.
In the 1980s, many African Americans and many Americans believed that the racial discrimination were gone, but that's far from true. Racism in America was at one of their most powerful moments, and many major events prove that, such as the Million Man March and the Tawana Brazeley case, and many, many more. Even today, you can see this type of racial injustice. For example, black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die because of pregnancy reasons than white women. When the conscious wave began, the United States of America was just starting to have African American politicians. One example of that is the first ever black mayor in Chicago. So, as you can imagine, the conscious wave began during a time full of drugs, violence, racial discrimination, and all of that. So, the social impact it had was huge. So, unlike the typical stereotype of hip-hop, the conscious wave did not talk about drugs, violence, rape, and all of that. The conscious wave talked about, it talked about problems and conflicts in society, such as racism, discrimination, feminism even, and problems or conflicts that normally minorities had or even have right now in the United States of America. By the end of the conscious wave, many African Americans had way more opportunities than before, and you can see it even in the highest grossing areas. For example, Michael Jordan was the face of the NBA and was the most famous athlete in the whole world. And Oprah Winfrey was a TV star. She had her own show. Oh, sorry, I thought we were going to the beach today. So as you already know, the conscious rap was about expressing new ideas and emotions about problems in society. But what about the music? So just like we saw in the class about modernism, the conscious wave also created new types of music, new styles of music, new styles of beats, and that's a really interesting part about the conscious wave. Some examples of it are the KRS-One, A Tribe Called Quest, and the Public Enemy.
I'm sorry, I was late.
¿Qué onda?
¿Qué onda?
¿Qué onda? ¿Qué onda?
So, what did we learn, guys?
Well, I learned that not only history affects the music, but also music affects history.
I learned that in the conscious wave, not every rapper talks about drugs and violence, but they also talk about the current problems in society.
I learned that the golden age was a breakpoint for fashion and the rap in general. And you?
I learned that rap isn't only about the rhythms and the lyrics, it's also about the history.
But wait a moment. Don't we have like different clothes?
1, 2, 3.
Just say a little prayer, get your money, man. Life goes on.
I'm hopeful, yes I am hopeful for today. Take this music and use it, let it take you away. And be hopeful, hopeful, and he'll make a way. I know it ain't easy, but that's okay, cause we hopeful.
I wish that you could show some love instead of hating so much when you see some other people coming up. I wish I could teach the world to sing, write some music and have them tripping off the joy I bring. I wish that we can hold hands, listen instead of dissing lessons from a grown man. And I wish the families that lack but got love, get some stacks, brand new shack in the lack.
1, 2, 3.